republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Issen.
Here?
Mr. Kachasik.
Here.
Dr. Koshko.
Here.
Mr. Bill Leonard, I do not see. Mr. Dallas Leonard, I do not see. Mr. Matarazzo.
Here.
Mr. Neiman.
Here.
Mr. Petrucci.
Here.
Mr. Stovall.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Lego. Turn it over to Dr. Harris for information.
Thank you, Mrs. Issing. I actually have a lot of information tonight, so I hope you can hear me. I'll try to speak up louder for Mr. Benson. But before we begin this meeting, I'd like to have a moment of silence. I want to read something first for Mr. Kiefer. The Penn Trafford community was saddened to learn of the sudden death of Mr. Greg Kiefer, a second-grade teacher at Harrison Park. Mr. Kiefer was an outstanding teacher who cared very deeply about the success and well-being of each and every one of his students. Greg was definitely loved by his students and co-workers, and he will be greatly missed. He made every child feel welcome and was known to give every student in the school a high five. He was involved in Deer Valley, Spirit Week, Make-A-Wish Dodgeball Tournament, where he always had a good time and made all the children feel welcomed and invited. And we were deeply saddened by his loss. So we can just have a moment of silence. Thank you.
I'd just like to add to that. I've known Greg all his life from birth. He was right down. My younger days, I could probably hit his house with a baseball. That's how close I was. Not nowhere close now. But anyway, always a super pleasant kid. He was just always. He came to his nephew got the student of the month, Anthony. Yeah, and did great. He'd take the boys. He just excellent character makeup. It was just a shock to the school district, also the neighborhood. It's hard to believe, but just always smiling, like you said, always smiling, greets everybody.
Great
Very
family.
sad. What'd you say, Tom?
Great family.
Yeah.
His mother worked as the lunch aide.
Yeah, she worked in the
Trafford
cafeteria, yeah.
Middle School.
Yeah, it's
She was a
sad.
very active PTO member prior to that.
Very sad.
Yeah.
I just want to give you an update because at the end of the year, we always do it on our security plans. We really appreciated having the SRO officer. We had one from Penn Township as well as Trafford. Both buildings were very happy with the use of them, and we are planning on having them next year as well. The school security staff at each building did an excellent job this past year, and they are planning on coming back, so it's always good to see them in the fall. We did, our first security drill we completed. Our second one was due in March, and unfortunately due to the pandemic, we didn't have our second one. But the state obviously waived it because it's all the schools still in the same category. The security checklist we've updated, and actually this is the one we started a couple years ago. We've had everything completed that we said we were going to complete it. So that's actually a good thing. We are going to meet one time this summer just to kind of see where we are and what else we should be adding. The grant we received last year was for $45,000, so we're going to be starting to spend several of the money in the upcoming months for the next school year and the school year afterwards. We also received money from the prior grant, and we have to spend that by June 30th, so there's still one more item, and I'm going to take care of that this week. So now we're very happy, and like I said, it was a good year. They waived most of the. We still have to do a school safety report we reply, but we lost most of our data from the last 4 to 9 weeks we don't have. So Title I, we do this every year, just kind of give you talking points for next school year, and I'll try to speak up louder. Next school year, 6 of our buildings will be Title I. To be a Title I school, you have to have 22% free or reduced lunch students in your building. And Based on this, Penn Middle just made it a 22.3, Level Green 23.7, Trafford Middle 24, McCullough 24.6, Harrison Park 26.7, and Trafford Elementary 39.6. As mentioned, this district has 6 buildings that are eligible for Title I services. The 6 buildings are required to have a reading specialist per building dedicated to supporting students in the area of reading. The following are the 2020-2021 school year Title I, Title II, and Title IV allocations for our district. Title I total, we received $311,469. $293,000 stays into the district. The other services, children and non-public schools. Title II, we get $69,907. Title IV, $23,876. The cost of the reading specialist, however, is $484,791. So we're able to transfer 2 and 4 to the 1, but that also brings us, and this is annually reported, a shortfall, and this year it was $97,799. But that's made up of the general budget, and that's always been budgeted in every year. And this is one thing, regardless if you have 5 schools or 6 schools that are Title I, the amount of money stays the same. So it doesn't really matter like you get an extra one at that, but no, it's pretty much the same. And lastly, and then I know this is going to appear, I want to give it to Chip, and they always publish it in the Penn Trafford News. The amount of teachers and custodians and aides who retired last year, we had several. I'm just going to kind of say the name and title versus reading it, but they will always do a story in the Penn Trafford News. We had Tanya Kelsch, a custodian, Vicki Rapelski, a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing, Hank Contetta was a custodian, Jim DeStefano was also a custodian, Sam DeMarchi, he was our traveling van driver, Donna Noman, she was also a custodian, Steve Paravich, he was a teacher at Trafford Middle, social studies, Nancy Keppel was another custodian, Renee Myers was a math teacher, Bill Lazario was an English teacher at Trafford, Mark Martini was a PE teacher at the high school, Lori Beresford was a PCA throughout the district, lastly at Harrison Park. When they did retire at the board meeting, I stopped and said something about each one, and like I said, they're all be missed, but I just want to bring it to your attention that we have a large number, and I'm going to give it to Mr. Exploring over there in the paper. Mr. Ingles has been working on the pandemic plan to get us back to school. Do you want to share some of that information, Mr. Ingles?
Sure. Just to brief everybody, we are required to have a school health and safety plan before we can reopen schools, before we can resume any activities on July 1st, whether they be summer programs, driver's ed, band, whatever it is, we have to have our plan in place. So we've had our first meeting this morning to review. We had about a dozen people on that committee, administrators, teachers, some parents. So we talked about a lot of the issues, and we kind of came to some conclusions. And I'm just going to generally tell you what our plan is. We plan on reopening school in August in full. In other words, we will bring all students back to school in the fall. That is our plan. The state gives you some options as to how you want to do it. So we're going to check the box that says we're going to reopen for all students and staff, with the idea that some student families opt for distance learning out of health and safety concerns. So if we have a teacher who's teaching a math classroom of 25 kids, or you may have 5 of those kids who choose to stay at home and get their instruction online. So the teachers will be creating a lesson that is going to be able to be taken care of by a student in the classroom and a student that is at home. Okay, so those lessons will be designed that way. Most of the lessons can be done both ways. Sometimes we'll have to tweak things for students who are learning at home, but that's the plan to accommodate anybody who doesn't feel that they're safe or is concerned about coming back to school. Now, there are a number of guidelines that the state has issued for us to follow. We're going to incorporate as many of those guidelines as possible. We want to make sure that the health and safety of our students is first and foremost. That's the most important thing. But we have to understand that to bring every student back, it's just going to be, it's not possible to adhere to every single guideline to a T and to do everything that we need to do. But we're going to do our best to bring every student back to school in the fall. We did a survey with our community, with our parents, and overwhelming responses were that the parents want their kids back in school. So that's why we went in this direction, based on the responses and the feedback that we have received from our parents. So that's the plan. There are a number of things we have to consider. We're probably going to issue a general plan that we plan on approving on June 29th. That's our goal, to have something approved on the 29th. It's probably going to be more general in nature, but that will give us time to, give us an opportunity for anybody that wants to start programs in the summer to get started, and that will give us an opportunity for us to even tweak the plan and be more detailed with it and fine-tune it and do things more that we need to do and revise it for August so that we have it ready for kids to return. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I don't know if did I miss anything? Anything else I need to
Yeah, we're
address?
going to be sending out a survey to parents.
Yeah, we'll be doing another survey. Once we kind of have some things in line, we want to give one more opportunity for some parent feedback in terms of what we want to do and how we want to deliver instruction and how kids will be coming to school and things like that. So it won't be a very long survey, probably maybe 3 or 4 questions, maybe 5, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, we want all the parents to actually get a chance to preview it before we actually finalize anything. We thought that was a good way to get everyone's input.
But just remember, I mean, we want to make sure that everybody has the option. This is not, we're not going to call this a hybrid plan, we're going to call it more of an alternative plan. So in other words, bring every student back to school if they want to. The alternative is to get your instruction online, similar to how it was done during the pandemic when it started in March. The only difference would be is we're going to ask students to log in at a defined time and have a defined hour, so it's more structured, so that if you have an 8 o'clock math classroom, you'll be logged in at 8 o'clock, and you'll be finished at 3 o'clock, and so will the teachers at that time. So what we were doing in the past is kids and teachers were working to the wee hours of the morning, communicating and doing things online, back and forth. It got kind of crazy because it really didn't have any beginning or end time to your day, so we're going to tighten that up a little bit. And this is for green phase and yellow phase. That's our plan. If it's in yellow or green, we're allowed to bring kids into school, so that's our plan to do it. We may have to tweak things if we go to yellow and be a little bit more restrictive, but if we go to a red, we will automatically go to an online format, online instruction, so we have to make sure we're ready for that as well. Okay?
Would you say yellow again, Scott, was?
Yellow is obviously between the red phase and green. We're in green right now. So let's just say in November, there's a little spike in cases and we go to yellow. We will remain in school, but that's a board decision. Our plan is to remain in school, but to maybe have some more restrictions and more enforcement in place to make sure that we're able to provide instruction and keep the kids
The red will
informed.
be no school.
Red is absolutely no school. In the buildings.
Understand that, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Inglis. And then lastly, we do have, they gave us new information regarding our athletics, and this was released on, was it Wednesday or Thursday last week?
We met Thursday last week.
Thursday, so we have 2 visitors, and they're going to do a presentation, Mr. Kerry Hector and Lisa Cox.
So we're going to, we have a presentation we're going to put up on the screen here for you. Nurse Popovich is going to pass around sort of a play-by-play on it.
The handouts you're receiving is the information that you received in the email, plus also what we're going to be having up on the screen.
So everybody's aware, last week on the 3rd, when the PD presented the information that Mr. Inglis just discussed, last Thursday, the PIAA, working with the governor, made an addendum to that, basically saying that there were separate rules or regulations to returning to play for sports, and the PIAA in particular. And at that time, it was also decided that it was a school-by-school decision on how to develop those plans. So we were given the task of developing the plan, putting it in place, and then from there it's supposed to be presented to our school board, and then from there it would go onto our website and publicized to the public. So the way it started was I developed an athletics task force along with Nurse Lisa, who I work hand in hand with throughout the year, and Jennifer Smith and Lauren Germanowski, our athletic trainers, and our school physician, Dr. Kevin Wong, along with a number of veteran coaches that have been here with me for the last 11 years, Mr. David Babick, Mrs. Cindy Dutt, Mrs. Christy Lynn, Mr. John Ruane, and Mr. James Shaw. As per the governor's statement on June 10th, each school entity must develop and adopt an athletics, health, and safety plan that aligns with the PDE preliminary guidance for phased reopening of pre-K to 12 schools. So, what myself and our task force did is we gathered information from various places, UPMC, Allegheny General, the NFHS. We met for about 4 hours. We combined a lot of those things, and from there we developed our own return to play. Now keep in mind, when this goes into effect, this is still off-season conditioning. The actual return to play and official start dates all still remain intact in August, the second Monday in August. So these return to play factors would involve getting the student athletes back out and actually being able to work out and do different things as they would have been doing, for the last 3 months while we've been out. So from there, I want to take you down and show you basically what the process that we worked on and put together. It's a 3-phase process. And I'm going to let Lisa get into the couple of things, but what we did is to set ourselves aside is first of all, we worked in accordance with some people. We purchased some thermometers, non-touch, that we're going to implement it, and you'll see in the plan there too. And we also developed through Google Classrooms a program that our coaches are going to be instructed on what to do. So when these guidelines, if they are approved by the board and put into place, every one of our teams then has to look and review our guidelines, and they have to develop their own plans within the school-approved guidelines that we put out, or our policies that we establish. So each team would then be responsible to go through these and to make their own plan in accordance with what we have here. So I'm going to show you a quick video here that Mr. Ruane put together. And this is how we're going to instruct our coaches. And this is during phase 1, the first week, there's going to be a temperature check. And then each day, every one of our student athletes are going to have to fill out this form before they participate that day.
How the Google form would work upon arrival to any practice, but in this case football. We have the kid, these are the questions that we came up with. It can be changed obviously. They're pretty quick, simple yes, no. After they put their name in, they should be able to do it on the card right here, when they get here, before they leave the home, whatever it might be. But what happens is we send this out, this will be sent out every day before they arrive via Google Classroom. So our football team will have a Google Classroom, we already have one set up, and we'll send this quiz every morning. The quiz will look like this when the kids get it. They'll put their last name, first name, their graduation year, and then the questions will be all about symptoms of COVID. Some previous diagnosis questions, if you have any kind of symptoms. I'm going to show you one that I'm going to put yes for one just so you can see the result of that. I'm going to put no for the rest. That took me probably, 15, 20 seconds to submit. And what would happen for us is, once that is submitted, I go back to our document where we made this, and I go to responses, and you can see Dr. Harris' response is already taken care of. And I'm going to go to our spreadsheet, and you'll notice it is time-stamped with who took the quiz, what time, what date, up to the second, and all of their answers, and we have it automatically programmed in where if something came up as a yes, it is automatically color-coded red by condition to stand out, so that when the coaches check this list upon arrival, if anything is red, we then further check them. We've pretty much decided early on, at least in the first 2 weeks, to send that kid back home so that they are not near anybody else. But this is a great way to record keep via timestamps, so we know exactly who and when and how. And this is a cumulative list, so it'll continue to go. You can sort this by kid and by any category, like you can sort anything in Excel. But this was our idea for record keeping for the pre-practice screenings.
So one of the things, as you can see, the symptoms, everything is based off the CDC and the Pennsylvania Department of Health, and all of the symptoms and everything that goes along with COVID-19. One of the things we do within the Family ID registration, we already have a student-athlete participation, liability waiver, medical treatment authorization. That is the very first agreement that comes up in the Family ID registration. What we did was we added a release within that, a release for communicable diseases, including COVID-19 assumption of risk. And what we did, it begins with, I give my permission for my child to participate in the extracurricular program of the school district of Penn Trafford without purchasing the available school accident insurance coverage. I have an insurance and feel that my accident and hospitalization is adequate to meet all expenses, including doctor bills, surgery, prescription drug, and hospitalization. That is already in place. We have added, I understand that allowing my child to participate in an extracurricular activity includes possible exposure to an illness from infectious diseases, including but not limited to bacterial, viral, or fungal infections. And then we listed, i.e., influenza, MRSA, COVID-19, and multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children associated with coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19. Then the next part was already in the agreement. I understand that under no circumstances is the Penn Trafford School District, its employees, or the school physician responsible for or for liable for, we added, any infections or injuries sustained by the above student due to the participation in school extracurricular programs, or for any bill expenses incurred as a result of such injuries as specifically indemnified, and holds harmless of the Penn Trafford School District from any such injuries. It also then goes to give the permission for treatment that we have under the medical treatment authorization. But with that, there is the true assumption that if you're going to be a participant in a contact sport, and you can say any of the sports that we have, that you have to accept the liability of an assumption that you will come in contact with something. I mean, we can do absolutely everything in our power to make sure our children are safe, but there is an assumption of liability. I mean, that's with anything.
With that being said, as we mentioned, we have a three-phase process that we would start no earlier than June 22nd. And remember, as I said earlier, if this is approved, each one of our teams would then have to present to our committee their individualized plan for their team specifically and how it will fit within our policies that we put into place. In addition, we also worked on, with the waiver that we've obtained through Christina, we're going to put that out, and then we would also look to reopen our facilities the week of the 22nd, along with when we return to play or return to condition. Keep in mind that we do have school policies in place, and we've been through this, over the last few months before we hit this spot, that when our children and our teams are on the field or in the facilities, people are not permitted, and that was even before we hit this epidemic, but people are not permitted to be on the track and in that area when our teams are down there. and we will have to enforce that. But we want to work with the community as well to reopen the track, the tennis courts, and to make our facilities that are open available to our community as well too. And in accordance to do that, we have signs that are being made, and they should be made by the end of the week, and they, in turn too, would be ready in time for the week of the 22nd as well. Each of you have the full plan. If you have any questions for Lisa or I, or even Dr. Wong, work closely with us. I'm going to tell you that last week, in addition to our committee that I formed, we also had a couple of our neighboring school districts that came up here and sat in as well. And I know everybody has their own plan or ideas, but we work pretty closely with our neighbors to try and develop what we all think is best for our student athletes and to keep them healthy and safe. So if there are any questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
To be approved tonight. I want to thank Dr. Wong also for coming in today. Dr. Wong, did you have anything that you wanted to add, or?
Basically, the thing is, we must all remember that the education of the student participants and students in general is going to be the mainstay, because they're not the ones that are going to get ill, but they can transmit long before they're symptomatic. So to get this through our community safely, we have to get the students to buy in, to realize if they're being exposed to someone, that's okay. They may be, because sooner or later we're all going to get exposed to this. We all will, because it's going to go around the world. And if we don't get immunity. So the students have to buy in and realize if they have been at a risk or exposure, protect those at risk in their families, in the community, in an extended family, or other people that contact the school. So somehow this is what you must really project to the students. It becomes their individual responsibility to protect those at risk. We can do all of this stuff, but the kid's going to do what the kid's going to do. Everybody's getting tired of being locked down. So we make sure that they understand why they're doing this, because it will go around and will come around. And the problem is going to be that, my personal feeling is we probably locked down a little too long, because the original reason for what we did was to what they call flatten the curve. Flatten the curve had nothing to do with that you won't get this. Flatten the curve had to do with that so everybody wouldn't get it at once and overwhelm the healthcare system. Because if you don't have it go through the entire community, you will not get immunity. And all you're doing is putting it off, putting it off, and then it's still going to come through later on. So that's what people have to realize. And if we don't understand that basic concept, everything you're doing is for naught, because people are still going to panic. Young people can get this for the most part and not have any significant symptoms at all. I mean, there are a lot of people that get it never have symptoms. So that's what we have to realize. And we'll only see that as time goes on when the testing comes out and everybody eventually gets tested, that you'll find a lot more people have been converted to positive, just like any other cold, especially when you go through allergy season and summer season with the heat. They're not going to realize they're sick. So unfortunately, that's your task as a school board, I think, is to make sure we educate everybody in the school district that, you can do any guideline you want, but it's personal responsibility in educating them to protect everybody else. Thank you.
What about our plans about starting school in the fall? What about your class for planning to start school in the fall?
I think it sounds perfect, and you have everybody come to school that can, and if they have concerns about their student being at risk, or someone at home being at risk, or someone they're in contact with being at risk, then that's fine to do the education distance from the school. But it sounds great, and I think that's what we need to do, because I said it has to go through the community. You just hope it comes in a small amount paced, that no one really gets an outbreak. And that will happen naturally. I mean, never in recorded history have you sequestered an entire population. You sequestered those that have the disease and those at risk. Because if you don't, you're just putting it off, and it will come through again later on. And again, if we put it off till later on, it's going to be right in flu season. And that's my only other big push. If anybody even thinks about getting a flu shot, you definitely get it this year, because at least that way you minimize your risk of, is this COVID or is this flu? But that's another whole issue. And biggest thing is hygiene, hand washing, and appropriateness. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Does anyone have any other questions for the board or the will be having, I know Scott will be setting something up with parents, maybe tomorrow to kind of recap what we talked about tonight. Mr. Monarago?
I'm sorry, I want to ask Mr. Hedrick, in reference to the track. Any comments about the track, tennis courts, some more outdoor facilities? Could you share what's happening with those?
Well,
I missed it, I'm sorry if I...
I'm sorry, yes, our intention would be to coincide and open everything at the same time. So we're looking at the 22nd. That gives us enough time to prepare, to make sure we're on the same page with Mr. Bracco and his staff, as well as have the proper signage up. And also to do a very well, and I'm going to work with Colleen and do a really good press release that has everything involved in it so that we can get it out to the community and get everybody on the same page and working together.
Since you're speaking language, what are going to be some of the guidelines about the tracks that people might not be reading things? Just give us a thumbnail about the use of the track.
Well, everybody's just going to have to practice and follow the current CDC guidelines when they're down there. And that's what's going to be on the signs reminding them. There will not be group gatherings or team gatherings outside of what goes through our department and through the school district. So all of that has to stay outside, but we want to, create and put the opportunity out there for our community to use the track, the tennis courts, and then anything else that that we can put out there. Our baseball and softball fields on this campus will remain closed for the summer due to construction. Neither are done. They still have a lot of time we need for the grass to grow and everything. But we're going to work with the community groups and also to try and get them to utilize Sunrise for baseball and softball so that we can at least help out on that end. And for community groups that want to use our facilities, we have a waiver, as I mentioned earlier, that Christina provided us with. They will have to not only sign that, but provide us with their own plan to fall within our guidelines as well. So, and that is also in addition to having the certificate of liability and everything else that falls into place as any other outside group would be that utilizes our facility.
Great. And the fitness center and the pool.
The fitness center and the pool, that's down the line here too to get them back. I mean, I've also working with Linda Byers with PTARC, trying to get them back into. I think the timeline for that, just to be safe, would fall more along the lines of opening up the school with the July 1st plan that would go into place with the entire school plan. And just to be clear too, we wanted to tie all of our extracurriculars, including the band or the drama or different people, into our athletic plan, but that's not how it was written or designed when they added the addendum allowing the PIAA to sort of have a separate return to plan as differs from the schools as well. Correct. That's why we wanted nothing more than to get everybody back at the same time, but our hands were tied with that, and I just want to make that clear, that we did not have a decision to play in that.
That's the middle school tracks too, correct, Gary?
Yes, sir, and that'll be, all the facilities, throughout the district. We're going to have enough signs made, to cover all them, including the tennis courts down in Trafford as well.
Great. Thanks for the details. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
That's all I have for now. I might pass out something else during the presentations too on the budget. Give you something else later on when we discuss that.
Okay. All right, any old business, Mr. Rego?
No, this evening, Mr. President.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, an executive session was held before this meeting at 6 o'clock, and also on June 8th at 6 o'clock, in which we discussed personnel issues, attorney advisory. We received information on the school reopening and some guidance. Okay. All right, oh, I forgot to announce that we did have no visitors. All right, moving forward, it's consent agenda time. Does the board wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? We already have items 6 and on.
Mr. President, I just have a question
Yes, sir.
on one of the items. It's probably directed to Brett. Brett, motion to approve a contract with Core Architects for on-call services
Yes.
for an asset protection and miscellaneous consulting. That is on a do not exceed, but it's also just based on their time and material throughout the year if we need something. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on it? Any other items? Okay, that being said, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted under one motion?
So moved.
Okay, all right, I think we had a motion by Dr. Costro and a second by Mr. Neiman. Okay, this question being called for?
Question?
This will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, at this point, we're going to jump down to item number 6, at which time I am going to turn it over to Mr. Matarazzo.
We're gonna find 6.
Y'all just get a hanging on.
Yeah, that'll be, number 6. Oh, okay, yeah. We'd gladly like to move to employ the following personnel. New employment is contingent upon the receipt of all necessary certification and documentation and the acceptance of Act 34, 151, and 114 waivers from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Employment is effective for the 2020-2021 season unless otherwise noted. I'd like to move that Mr. Doug Kelly, for boys head basketball coach district-wide at a salary of $7,906.
Second.
Question. Question being called for. This will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. I think he's here.
He's here. Can we say hello?
You want to stand up
Please come on up.
and say hello?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say I'm looking forward to it, and I appreciate the trust with Mr. Hedrick and those in the interviewing committee had to put me forward today as the candidate. I'm excited. Having kids that have gone through here and having been around here and coached at different levels, I'm excited and for this coming season and obviously to get started under our new plans that are being developed. And again, just the trust. And I won't let you down. With the way I treat people and when I'm going to treat our kids, I will not let you down. Thank you. Okay? Wow. I didn't even get that. It was the interview. Listen, I don't have an agenda. My agenda is what these kids want to chase. And if they want to chase the Whitfield Championship and they want to chase whatever, then I'm on. And I'll do whatever I can to help them. I found, the winning, obviously, with coaches, we're all our competitive juices. That's a goal, but not at the expense of the process and everything that goes into that, and our communication and our relationships that we have with the young men and women that we coach, talking about other coaches. But I don't really have an agenda or a brand, so to speak. Coach Rocco has done an incredible job of developing skill with our kids, and we're going to continue to work on that skill. He's put us in a very good place. Will there be some things that are different? Sure. It won't be all the same, but I'm entrusting, again, our kids and our staff that we bring in and surrounding our kids with some high character people, as well as some people that have been around the game that can help us be the best we can be in whatever we're chasing. Thank you. Yes, sir.
He's working on that. We're gonna get his assistants lined up, and obviously with hopefully this going through tonight, I was gonna be more track with the summer program.
We're ready to go in whatever plan we need to follow. We've already been discussing. Thank you.
Okay, well, good luck, and we look forward to watching you on the court. Okay. Moving on. I think we need Mr. Katsasik. Okay. Now it's time for budget and finance. Mr. Katsas, I do want to mention that it has been a very difficult time the last few months. There's been some difficult cuts made, some difficult cuts made of our staff. Some of it, some received, some of it not. But, well, we'll let Dr. Katsas start. Mr. Katsas start.
Thank you. I always wanted to be a doctor.
Me too. You know.
Thank you, Madam President. Based on the preliminary June budget, where we passed $1 million, that's what I'll be reading. Move to recommend that the 2021 school district budget and schedules in the total amount of $57,467,366, properly advertised in accordance with the school laws of Pennsylvania, be adopted and filed in the official board minutes to include the following taxes as shown in the budget. Real estate tax at 87.25 mils, the per capita tax, and the Act 511 taxes as listed, and the 2020-21 budget breakdown as listed. So do I have a second? All right, no second. Do we open it up for discussion? Go ahead. There's no second on the motion. That means
We
that,
have a second just to go into discussion. So without a second, the motion just fails as presented. And then the floor is open for someone to make another motion.
I think that's where we're at.
Okay, so then you're not at discussion, that motion failed. And now you can open the floor for another motion.
All right, I open the floor up to any other discussion on making a new motion.
Yes, I would like to present the same motion, only adjust total expenditures to $58,093,468, which would eliminate the cutting of the student learning assistant positions and the coach positions. So it would be the same $1 million increase, just with the increased expenditures. I second that.
Question?
Okay. Question. Dr. Harris, you and Mr. Lego kept us, and Mr. Ingley, very well informed on this. Now, how much of this we going into we have to take and I'm all for it. I love the test scores. The results, the best results we ever had in the history of our school district this past year. 11th in the state. I think I'm stating that correct. 11th in the state, and I want to maintain that. That's me personally. I think everybody around this table wants to maintain that. And of course, I'm all in favor of maintaining the fund balance also, especially since we've have so many old buildings. An example coming up, a new roof is going to be needed in McCullough, which is over $1 million. It's going to come out of fund balance. I know it's a one-time expense, but it's still a fund balance of taking out $1 million. And my concern, of course, is I'm not opposed to $1 million. I preferably want to go more if that would be needed. But I'm not pushing more. But I want to, Brett, Mr. Lego, too, tell me how much for the public too. How much is because we passed this as a permanent reduction from our fund balance.
It'll use, as under current projections, it'll use $818,463.
Say it again, Brett, I'm sorry.
$818,463.
And approximately what percent of our budget is that?
Well, that would, at the end of the year, that would give us an estimated fund balance of about $5.2 million, or somewhere between 8 and 9%.
Okay, I didn't say 10%. Okay, so
But 2% of that, well, part of that is reserved, part of that is unreserved, but the total would be about 8 to 9%, yes.
I doesn't say 10%, but okay, 9%. I mean, I'm going to live with it, but I just like the fund balance the way it is with the old buildings. We always have to handle. And coming up this next school year, how it's going to develop, who knows? I hope everything goes back to status quo, but there's a lot of gray area right now. And I will vote for this, but I'd prefer even a little bigger increase in millage. But as long as we keep the SLAs in place and keep those scores high, that's That's why we're here, to educate kids, and I just want to keep that high scores. And the public, and I'm a small town in Trafford, which I represent, the parents down there love those scores. And I want to keep those scores, just to satisfy, well, not satisfy everybody around the table. They've been excellent. And hats off to the administration for the great work, and the teachers, and they're all involved, the great work they've been doing. Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, some of my questions tying in with the millage increase versus fund balance use. My concern was, and again, I'm so happy keeping the SLAs, Mr. Nemec and his concerns. We've done a tremendous job as a team, as a focus. All the principals came in to tell us how important the SLAs were, and to lose them would be detrimental to what our success has been. At the same time, I agree with Nick on the fund balance issue, and I'm looking at our millage. You know, 1 mill is very minimal, and when I compare that to 17 school districts in our area, we rank 8th. We don't have over millage. We're right in the middle. It's not like we are a high mill, school district. We're not. Our per pupil cost, amazing. Out of, I think, 37 districts, we were second from the bottom in per pupil cost. We've kept a tight string. Our administration, wonderful job. And that's without any, I talked to my friend at Gateway. She said one year Gateway got $2 million from the mall. $2 million for their budget. Right up around 130, and see how much money we get from our business. Wonderful business people. They support us. We love them. But we don't get the support that Franklin gets, Norwin gets if you drive up 22 and 30. So it does come from the taxpayers. And to keep from our property owners to only be in the middle of the pack in millage, we're not over milled, to have lowest per pupil cost, I think we're doing a great job. And to go to 2 mills, that would be the equivalent of a Happy Meal. They went to the median number. 50% people would pay more, 50% would pay less. We're talking a Happy Meal for our kids without having to go deep into the fund balance, use part of it. But keep all the things we've had without the cuts and keep the tremendous program we have. So I'm not sure how this works out, but that's what I'm going to be promoting, that we have the 2 mil increase. That our kids are worth a Happy Meal a month.
Right now,
Jim, I think, good.
I know it might not
right
come
now,
at the
we
right time.
have a new motion presented by Mr. Nemec, and we have a second. So we're going to have to run the procedure. We're going to run, and we're going to, all those in favor of the motion, we're going to, well, we have a question. That's what's basically what we're doing now is talking about it.
Right.
And then we're going to vote on it, and then if the vote passes, then it's going to be what the motion is. If it doesn't pass, then that motion will fail, and it'll be opened up for discussion again.
I thought millage was separate.
No, it's all together.
Go ahead, Dr. Thomas.
Okay, sorry.
Just wanted to mention too that I understand and partially agree with Jim's response, but also we need to take in mind this is unprecedented times for our community as well. There are folks in this community that are out of work still, as well as folks that may have been furloughed or laid off or asked to take a reduction in their salaries. You're forgetting the fact that it is compounding as well. They still have a tax burden already that they're responsible for. And I think in this time, we just have to be mindful of that there are folks that are struggling out there. And food banks have seen unprecedented times in terms of utilization. And I don't believe our community is any different than some of the other ones surrounding. So I think, asking at times right now for millage increases, regardless of the dollar value, is still difficult for folks. Not necessarily everybody, but it is difficult for our community. So I just think we need to be mindful of that as we talk through some of the budget assumptions and some of the costs associated with that. I mean,
You don't want to get in that habit of keep on taking $800,000 from the fund balance.
I understand that.
No, we don't.
That's a big bite.
But
You take 10% or 9% this year. That's a nice bite.
some of the sales tax income that we would have expected to
Well,
receive
that-
this year,
that-
we're hopefully next year that will rebound and we'll see that revenue. Can't count on that right now.
Just out of curiosity, can you let you know when the last time we used fund balance to balance budget this district? I can't remember, as long as I've been.
Once, several years ago, a little bit, not this much, and I think it ended up, at the end of the year, we didn't have to use it. We budgeted, but didn't have to use it. So we haven't truly used fund balance in
think my point is that this is, I understand what you're saying, Nick, about you don't want to get in the habit of that, but it's obvious this board is not that type of a board to continually do that type of thing. That's all my point is.
We're treating that 800,000 as a pandemic, one-time expense.
Exactly. As Scott had pointed.
I hope you guys are right. Believe me, that's, I mean, 'cause the education is number one. And maintaining an education level is paramount to me anyway, and I just want to tip the effort, but 10% of the budget is, 9% is, that's a nice bite. But,
Well, we're hoping, these are unprecedented times. We're hoping this is a one-time deal. And if it turns out not to be a one-time deal, well, next year, we're sitting here having maybe a different discussion of how to move forward.
it will be the same board next year. Yes, that is correct.
Without a crystal ball or a vaccine right now, this is the best, it sounds like the best or compromise on what we can do to the situation. Sorry, Rich. I said.
I'm listening.
So anybody else have any comments? I want to take this motion to a vote.
Yeah, my other concern on the unknown future from a budget standpoint. We talked about potential for cyber school. People that don't know, cyber school, we get the bill. If we have, cyber school for us costs about $13,000 per kid. So if we have 10 kids go to cyber school, that's $130,000 we have to come up with out of our budget. If 20 kids go to cyber school, we're talking, what, 200 plus? So I'm just looking at that unknown future, why from a millage standpoint. I'd rather have a little bit that we can know because, and again, we don't know busing. You're going to have more buses. We're going to have to, there's a lot of unknowns we're going to have to deal with. And so I'd rather not be right on the border as much as be prepared. And then for next year, we wouldn't have to worry about it. Those are my thoughts.
I personally have a really hard time going to our constituents and saying, okay, we know some of you have taken pay cuts. We know some of you are unemployed. And asking them for more money when our own staff has really been unwilling to help in this matter. So I just really have a hard time doing that. I can't justify it.
All right, I'm going to move forward with Mr. Nemec's recommendation or proposal. So we have Mr. Nemec made the proposal. Dr. Koch, you seconded it. We had a question. All those in favor of Mr. Nemec?
Motion.
Right.
Sorry, all those in favor of Mr. Nemec's motion?
Isn't that my line? No.
Yeah. That's Madam President.
That's my line.
Oh, yeah, sorry, you're right.
Do you want to read your motion again, just so everyone's clear, Rich?
Pardon me? Repeat that motion.
Repeat your motion, please.
Increasing expenditures.
Okay, let's see. I move to recommend that the 2020-2021 school district budget and schedules in the total amount of $58,093,468, properly advertised in accordance with the school laws of Pennsylvania, be adopted and filed in the official board minutes to include the following taxes as shown in the budget, as listed. And this would be with an increase of 1 mil to the tax rate.
Okay. Dr. Costa seconded, right?
I did.
All right, we have questions. So all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no?
No.
Okay, do we pull the board?
Let's pull the board.
Okay, go ahead.
Mrs. Isson,
Yes?
Mr. Kachasik.
Yes.
Dr. Koshko.
Yes.
Mr. Matarazzo.
No.
Mr. Nemec.
Yes.
Mr. Petrucci.
No.
Mr. Stovar.
Yes.
You have a vote of 5 to 2. The motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lego.
You're welcome.
I wanted to thank the board too, because I know I have been doing a lot of presentations over SLAs. They really are a benefit to
So it just stays the same.
all the students in the school, the student achievement. I think very highly of them. I told you that before, and I know last month I did a nice article write-up in the paper, and I thank Mr. Boring for doing that. But they're key to helping our students achieve. I value every single one of them and every single thing they do for the district, and I'm very glad they're using the money for the fund balance to support them. My mask keeps falling
do appreciate it. I know there's a number of SLAs here, so we thank you for coming. These guys do a fantastic job. Just to be clear, the board, every board member here was voting to keep SLAs in the budget. Their only discussion or only opposition was how to pay for it, whether to use the fund balance money or whether to raise taxes to fund it. But either way, they wanted to fund the SLA program because they know how valuable it is. So just so you all know that.
All right, thank you. All right, we do gotta do taxes, that wasn't part, okay. So who does Mr. Lutter's part?
Mr. Kachasik.
Okay, back to Mr. Katasik.
I'll try not to read your report this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Move that the Board of School Directors adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved, and it is hereby resolved by the Board of School Directors of the Penn Trafford School District that there is hereby assessed, levied, and imposed for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020, and ending June 30th, 2021, a tax on all real estate in this district subject to taxation at the rate of 87.25 mils, 8.725 for each $100 of assessed valuation of taxable property. The real estate tax rate for Allegheny County portion located in Trafford Borough is 15.12 mils.
Question.
Okay, question being called for. This will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carried. All right, thank you, Mr. Katasik.
Welcome, Madam President.
Mrs. Thane, Joseph's report?
Thank you, Madam President. I do not have a separate report other than what we discussed in executive session.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Second.
All right, this meeting is adjourned at, I think, at
Football thing going on.
8 o'clock, right on